So you've got a multi-million dollar business and you'd ultimately like to get to a point where you can sell that business because, let's face it, you've poured in blood, sweat and tears. You want to be rewarded for all of that hard work, right? The big issue is that less than 6% of businesses are actually sold for a profit if they're ever sold at all. There's basically 120 things that you need to do to get your business ready for sale, and that doesn't happen overnight. I want to give you a couple of tips from some business sales and acquisitions that we've been involved in with our clients and that we've done personally that will hopefully help you make better decisions as a business owner, getting your business ready for sale. So the market really is that you need to have a business that is in the seven figures or multi-seven figures if you want to get a significant payout from your business. Sure, there are some six-figure businesses that are traded. However, there's not a huge market for it. And for that reason, you're not going to get a substantial multiple of your profitability or your EBITDA when you're exiting that business. If you're at that particular point and you do sell your business, then that's great, but this video probably isn't for you. You want to work towards getting to a multi-seven-figure business so you can actually sell a substantial asset. Now, when many of my clients come to me, and many of them, they actually reach out to me because they say, I'm done, I want to get out of this business. What can I do to maximize that value and get the most that I possibly can? Which is a great question. However, the issue is that for the vast majority of these people, their business isn't ready for sale. They haven't been preparing for an exit. They've just been working in their business. They've been treating their business as if it were a lifestyle business, which is fine. However, an acquirer doesn't want to buy a lifestyle business, particularly an acquirer who is going to pay a substantial amount above the intrinsic value of that business. We're talking about a business that's going to end up being sold for any more than 3 times EBITDA. That is going to require us to find a strategic acquirer. And that strategic acquirer doesn't want to buy themselves a job. They want to buy themselves an investment. So as a potential seller, the first thing you need to do is you need to understand your financial position. You need to have a really deep understanding of how your finances work, the mechanism for you to produce revenue into that business and the trajectory of that revenue over time, the cost of sales or the variable expenses as a proportion of that revenue, and also looking at how cost of sales has grown proportionate to your revenue growth. We see in many cases as businesses grow aggressively, we see that their cost of sales overrun, and therefore they end up having a diminishing profit margin, which can actually make their business worth less. We then want to understand the operating expenses. What are the fixed expenses for that business that particular new acquirer needs to produce in order to essentially break even? And then we want to understand the balance sheet. What story does the balance sheet tell us in terms of the accumulation of cash, the cash conversion cycle, and the assets that have been accumulated in that particular business? Now, the second thing, once you've understood your financials, is to understand, well, what is an acquirer looking for? What makes that business favorable in their hands? Because we've got to think about it this way. Let's say, for argument's sake, a strategic acquirer is going to pay 5 times profitability. That means that they're willing to spend 5 years of future profits in order to acquire your particular business. It's going to take them 5 years, not assuming a inflation, in order to recoup their investment. And most people aren't going to want to wait that amount of time. They want to continue to grow that business, ideally creating some arbitrage opportunities whereby they can recoup their investment as quickly as possible. So we want to understand, how do we position that business to justify them paying 5 times, in some cases even more? Is there opportunities for them to cross-sell or upsell? Is there opportunities for them to increase price? Is there opportunities for them to reduce or remove costs? Keeping in mind, a strategic acquirer is not going to necessarily cut costs. They want to look at doubling down to continue to grow that business. So you want to look at ways that you can either grow top-line revenue, you can grow your cost of sales margin, grow your gross profit, or grow your net profit. And ultimately, the better you can illustrate that, the better the acquisition is going to be for that particular business. The third thing you need is you need a runway. You need a methodology. And I just found some old pliers that I've been looking for ages. So you need to have a plan. You need to have a methodology to get you from where you are to that sale of that business. And that pathway is really going to come down to one thing. How do you reduce risks for the future acquirer? Because the rate that they are prepared to pay is a reflection of the risk that they are going to take in your business. The less risk that they have, the more they're going to be prepared to pay for it. Let me give you some examples. property. You buy a residential property that might have a 5% yield on that particular investment. You are essentially paying 25 times cash flow in order to obtain that yield. Now, of course, there's growth and other factors that we need to take into play, but let's just talk about the yield for a second. Now, most businesses are sold at between 1 and 3 times profitability, which basically means that because of the risk associated with that particular investment, most people are not prepared to pay any more than 1 to 3 times that cash flow because of the uncertainty associated with that. So these are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So the more that you can turn your business into as sure of an asset as property, the more multiples that people are prepared to pay for it. So this is the objective. And for most founders, most business owners, this process is going to take a minimum of 12 months, potentially up to 3 years to maximize that value. A general rule of thumb, the longer your business has been running without you coming up with this exit and liquidity plan, the longer it is going to take you to implement these 120 steps that I mentioned that are going to maximize the value and reduce the risk. I'll give you a recent example. A client of mine we've been working with for a couple of years, we were building the business with the plan for an exit. We had a very frank conversation where he was under no false pretenses that his industry was going to shift and change. It was going to be disrupted by technology, and he wanted to sell that business over the course of the next 2 to 5 years so he could cash out and then take that money and invest elsewhere, because he wasn't prepared to do the work that he thought was going to be necessary in order to stay relevant in that particular industry. So we focused on removing key person risk. We had conversations around how do we employ marketing team, sales team, operations. We got him to a point where he was spending less than 2 hours per week on his business. And his business was producing him net cash flows of about 700 grand a year, which was amazing. However, we were able to sell at a 5 times multiple of profit. So he basically got 5 years of cash flow from that particular business all up front. And he's now rolled that into a new business that he started that has a drastically higher growth rate, has higher profitability, and requires actually not that much more time of him, about 10 hours per week. And he's already built that into a multi-7-figure. The important point here, guys, when we have a strategic plan for exit, whether or not you choose to exit, we want to be working towards this particular liquidity event. We have a finite number of things that we can do to maximize that value, reduce your key person risk, and in turn make your business more profitable and have you enjoy it more, because the most valuable business is a business that you don't actually want to sell. But wouldn't you prefer to have a business set up in a way where you had the flexibility to sell if you one day got out of bed and decided to do so? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. If you want some help with this, feel free to let me know. This is stuff that we do all of the time. So whether you're looking to acquire other businesses or prepare your business for sale, we can definitely help. Chat to you soon.